Start filling back in. Done a weapon there. All kind of went Pete Tong. Just see if it's coming through on YouTube. Not yet, no. Hey, okay. Can we all see the stream? Because it cut out on the previous one. I don't know what happened there. There we go. We're back on. There we go. Yeah, we had all sorts of weird issues in the week. We had to like get a new router and everything, and it knocked out all the Wi-Fi, and I think it's broken the light settings. It seems very dark now. Let me boost that a bit. Blind myself a bit here. Yeah, cool. But yeah, new router, which means we've got brand new fast internet again. It was going really poor. Like I was getting dial-up speeds at some point, and it was ridiculous. But it's a lot better now. Oh. Hello. So I was saying, I realised I was talking to myself at the time. Welcome to Question Time. This is idealistically a weekly show where we answer your questions live about Unreal Engine, game dev, or anything you want in between. If you're new to game engines and Unreal Engine in particular, this is a great spot to ask your questions. All you got to do is put them into the chat, and we try and answer them as much as we can over the course of the stream. So this is our last live stream of 2025, and I was saying, I don't know if it got caught on the video or not, but before it got cut out, this year's been a bit of a tumultuous year in personal life, professional life, all the rest of it. It's affected physical health, mental health, emotional health, all the other things. But I'm determined to make 2026 a lot better, on a personal level as well as a professional level. So we're looking at doing and shaking things up a bit and making it a year of reinvention. So what does that mean looking forwards? So you're going to see in the start of the new year a rejig of Discord, Patreon, and looking at how we organise those and offering more support to people where they need it. We have also got webinars going to be coming more frequently. This is something we experimented with back in October. We're going to be doing more of those. The webinars, we've got one lined up in January. You can now sign up to on ryanlady.com. It should be up there. Let me double check before I go promising things. Yeah, so go to ryanlady.com, and if you head over to book a session, over here on the right hand side, you should see, yep, there you go, the live webinar. And in January, we're doing one about online replication. So how do webinars differ from live streams? Well, they're more focused on a particular topic, and they are often coming with resources such as like more PowerPoint slides, PDFs that you can take away with you. So if you're an educator as well, you can use these in your own classroom if you like, or keep them for your own records, whatever it may be. We're going to be doing more of these going forwards. And alongside that, we'll be, say, doing other little things like that. One thing you look forward to as well is there's a Learn tab now on the website, and it's in the beginnings of cultivating it at the moment. They're going to be offering courses on here too. These are still very much in development and nowhere near done, but hopefully get a large swath of them done over the Christmas break and into January as well. The first course will be free, which is Introduction to Video Game Design, and there'll be a load of resources we're going to put on here too. So we're going to make a sort of like a resource page for people to come and find stuff. Yeah, so the course is a combination of written and video stuff, and offering like different tiers and packages and things like that for people too. So look out for those things; they'll be coming up on there too. So yeah, we've got lots of really got some interesting things going on there. We got a new game in development. As well as Mimic, we've got progress on Mimic as well to share soon. Yeah, we're trying to reorganize my life a little bit to make it a bit more focused and a little bit less chaotic and better for everyone, including myself. So yeah, that's what we're doing. Anywho, more to that in due time. I say the next changes you're going to see are going to be happening on Discord and Patreon. One of those Discord changes, which is also a Patreon change, is there'll be a channel which is basically an open office. So whilst I'm here working on other projects for companies and projects of other people, we're going to have an open office chat room where basically I'll just have open next to me whilst I'm working. So if you have a question, you can literally just ping a question over. We'll try and answer it if we can in that time frame. So yeah, look out for those coming soon too. Anywho, let's jump into Unreal Engine. That's what we're here for. Let's start a new project. We'll probably go for a bit longer today, since it's the last one. Let's just do the first person project. Boom. Okay. Okay. So let's start fielding some of these questions. Maybe there's some I can answer on the hit here. Total Tank, we'll go through that. Yeah, we'll go through the two characters stuff. Cool Breeze, are you going to make a series about the mover component on a fresh project? Yeah, it's something I want to get into. I did look at it when it first came out, and it was very broken and buggy. I haven't looked at it since, so it's one of those on my to-do list to look at and put something together. But yeah. So the next game, the Fantasy Store Simulator, the NPC Simulator game. It's really fun to make. We've got some really cool stuff going on in it. It's a breath of fresh air. It's quite nice. What did we recently do on it? So working on the back end economy, that's kind of done. So prices will fluctuate upon customers, and we've also got a thing where customers will also rate your store as they come and visit. So based upon how long they wait, what your decorations are like in your store, 'cause you can decorate your store however you want freely. Whether they can find all the items they want, how clean it is. Oh yeah, that's one we added was cleaning. We can add cleaning to this thing now. But I'm gonna try and get a working demo of like the base stuff in it, and then give it to people to try out. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Okay. Where are we? Whoops. Give it a second. Unreal's freaking out. Oh, come on, Unreal. Okay, there we go. Cool. Okay, so let's go through a couple of ones here early. Total Tank. What's the simplest way to spawn two separate characters for a co-op game? Players pick a character, and based on which character they pick, it spawns that character. So, first of all, are you doing online or split screen? Let us know before I move on to the next. I'll come back round to you when I wait for that one. Sean Becker. I have two pawns. I want to spawn and possess the appropriate one based on device detection, VR or PC, for example. When I do it, I cannot seem to get the pawn to use the right controller. So if you want to change what character gets spawned in, the official way of doing that is through the game mode. So in the game mode, there is a function you can override called choose player pawn, which you go to functions over here, and yeah, you get default pawn class for controller. If you override this, by default, this just gets whatever's in the class defaults as the option. But obviously, we can change this. We can put in different options. And one thing you can do is you can check the controller and you can see if like head-mounted display is connected. I can't remember how this works now. No, not platform. Must be a cast to player controller. Let me have a look at what it was. Hang on. So if you here's a tip. If you can't remember or don't know if a node exists or not, just right click anywhere, turn off context sensitive, and just search for keywords. So I'm looking for head mounted display or HMD or headset. No, it would be headset. VR. No, it'd be probably platform. Input devices, get player control platform user, get primary platform user. So that one. You break it open. No. Not break. So this is a struct, but you can't, if it doesn't let you break it open because it's private, whatever. You can drag it out here and you can search for various things in here. So I'm going to go to input devices, get primary input device from user. And then we get this. Can we break this one yet? No. And we get user, we get player controller from input device, get input device, connection state. There is an actual way of doing this. I cannot remember what the hell it is. Is provide platform ID. Get platform. Device ID. I think it might be that one. I can't remember now. Print string that. Nope. I cannot remember what it's called. There's so many of them. Oh, I'll see if I can find it. Oh, one sec. I'm just Google it up. Because I can't remember. Right, it is get platform name. That one. So this returns. If I put that in there, I don't know if this picturing actually will work. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, there you go. So it tells it Windows. Okay. Obviously I'm on Windows, but if you were to plug that in with a VR headset, it'd give you a different result, and then you can use that to switch on it or select based on it. So this node here could be select or switched on string, and you put in the platform IDs wherever they are, so you can change it based on that. I can't remember what the output is for VR. Let me have a look. No, well, if you plug it in, you'll see it'll come up what platform you're running on. Yeah. Use that. But yeah, you use this to sort of separate out like what porn gets played with. This is the official way of doing it. And this sort of answers a little bit of what you want to do as well, Turtle Tank. So you're talking about online or split screen. Online. Okay. So if it's a co-op game, you want to change what class you're coming in as. Well, if it's coming in with a controller, you have to. If you just store on the controller what class the player has chosen. So, for example, if I change this to be, let me just bring a third person project. Hang on one sec, because you can actually see the character. I can make it a bit more obvious. There we go. Right. So if I go into make a second character, we'll make a child of that one, and make another child. Okay, and make this one look a bit different. We'll just go in here. And we'll just give them a different colour. Whoop, purple. There, do. That'll do. Yeah, so on the game menu, whatever it may be, on the controller, you will have a lobby controller, whatever it is, and you want to store in it what class they've chosen. Okay, so they will have a class in here, class chosen, and this will be a third-person character class, like that. Like that. And when they come over to the game, two things have to work together. So this happens, but before that happens, you get if you're using seamless travel, you would have on swap player controllers. You want to cast to the lobby controller, get the class they have, and then paste it into the game controller. Okay, so cast to, I've only got one, so I'll just do the one here. Set class chosen. Oh, did I put in the wrong one? I'm in the first person game mode, that's wrong. On swap player controller. Cast to third person character controller. And I think I put it in the wrong controller. Yeah. Chosen class. So it comes through like the old PC. Grab it from the lobby one, and then chuck it into the third person controller here. So set class chosen to whatever it may be that coming from the other one. I haven't made it, so I'm not doing it. But then on the function get default pawn class for controller, you take the controller here, cast to your controller, and we're going to get the chosen class from that. Okay. It's probably empty. One sec. Because obviously we're not swapping player controllers. We're just coming straight into here. But let's put in a post login. There you go. Make it do the same thing. Okay, so it comes in with this new one. But let's say I've in the lobby I've chosen a different character and it's in the lobby controller and I just copy it over and get the other one. I'll get the other character. Okay, and that's how you manage that. So yeah, hopefully that helps. You'd be surprised how many people don't know about that part of the game mode. I see it in quite a few projects that people in like private sessions show me. They've gone this very convoluted way of saving what class they've chosen. You can just store it on your lobby class and bring it over into here. And you have functions that manage that. They also see there's functions that managing like finding the correct player start. So if you want to find the right team side you want to go on, so if you want to say you want to spawn on a red team, or you go red team slots versus the blue team slots, you can totally do that. And obviously there's this functionality that you can just expand on greatly based on various different factors in here. But yeah, have a look at these. There's quite a few things in here. Right, let me have a look at other ones. So if I do miss your question, if I do miss it, just throw it back in there. That's totally fine. Iron Thumb's got a question. When you're ready with my RPG game, items being a data table, how do you make adjustments to items and store them? So first of all, you can't in a data table. Data tables and data assets are read only, so you can't make adjustments to them. So instead, what you do is you need to have these things, data table as like this, the base stats of it, and then you're storing any unique changes to them in a save project file, like a save game project file. That would be the best way of storing that information, because then it's saved obviously and bring it back in. But obviously all that comes with some caveats. If you're going to have millions and millions of items, you're not worried about them being stored all the time. You're trying to replicate data points rather than specific actors. But you're usually just starting with a base stat, and then you come in with a struct that shows here are the actual changes to this thing. And if they're influenced by different stats the player has or various other things, that is stored in a struct as well. I saw someone else actually ask about different stats. Condemned from TJ. Making a game like Condemned, so picking up different weapons with different stats, speed, reach, condition. How do you approach this? Again, you can start off with some base stats, and then if the player levels up, they can improve those stats with their thing. So how that may look to someone. Let's say we're doing a Condemned style approach, and you can use data table or data assets. I'm going to use a data asset because I just prefer them, but totally up to you. So you make a primary data asset, weapon, and you'll have your basic stuff like your name and things like that. But your stats, for example, will be your base stats, okay? And what's really nice about data assets is although it's read only, you can still use it to get values and do something with those values. So, for example, here, if I have speed in here, and there's a float, and let's say it starts with 1, okay? That's your speed. If I make a function in here called get speed, and in here, I can make it return the speed value, obviously, but I can also feed it other information. So in this case, I can actually feed it like a player character reference. So let's say I had a third-person character. Call it player character. And maybe the player character has some stats on it that affect the speed here. This is one of the nice things about data assets is that you can do this sort of stuff. So let's say my third-person character, we have speed as a stat on here. Okay, and that means then on here, I can get their speed value, add it onto the base speed value, and then we've got a new speed. And yet, whatever algebraic function you want to come up with, that's totally up to you, but I'm just adding 2 together here. But we can use this instead, and that's really nice because that means that although it's read-only, we can still use it to calculate various different things on it too. Which is quite nice. It kind of keeps it nice and tidy in that sense. So that's how I would approach something like that, TJ. So think about doing that. You have your base stats and you have your modifier stats somewhere else, like the player character. Save game project could be also that too. Just be aware that in your data asset, it is not instantiated. Okay, so you can't do things like get player. Get player character without some world context. Okay, so it will need some sort of input to come in here in order for this to actually work. Otherwise, it just won't let you do it. Try and show that. Yeah, you get that error. Okay. It must have a connection because it needs to know what it's referencing, and in this case, get player characters is context sensitive to what world you're in, what you're doing at the time. So if you don't have that context, it won't know what you're talking about. So you usually have to plug it into something, and at that point, you might as well cut the middleman out and just get it straight away. Yeah. More specifically, player picks up two identical swords, upgrades one, and now they need to be referenced as two separate. So all your items should be stored in like an array of structs. That's how your weapons should be stored as. Lottie, speaking of stats, how do you set up buffs? So very similarly, you could do it again. Everything fluctuates and changes based upon your game design and what you're trying to achieve. But let's say the player character has a series of buffs on them. Okay, let's say we have gameplay tags as buff system. So buff tags. Okay, you may be doing something different, whatever it may be. So that'd be a tag container. Whatever it is, have to have some reference to what buffs your character has, be it an array of actors that attach to your character, or buff tags attached to them. Yeah. Okay. So do think about like what kind of things you want to do in that sense. But in this case, buff tags, we can go into there, and as I apply buffs to them, we can design what those buffs do here. Yeah, you can pass through here, buff tags, and calculate how you want to modify the stats in that sense. The best thing to do is to think of a design system of the order of operations. So what I mean by that is that you think about the order that you're going to modify stats by. So you have base stats. So these are your starting stats that are often going to be part of your data asset or data table. And then you may go, and add player stats affecting it. Okay. But before that happens, maybe you want to do how buffs are going to affect the player stats. So in here, we have buffs. So buffs get calculated probably first and affect the player stats. So they'll feed into the player stats, and the base stats will go into player stats, and then you get your final stats coming out of here. So you have to design this on paper first. I really recommend doing that, because then you can kind of figure out like the sort of pattern that you want to follow with all your design, and then you kind of stick to it. If you don't stick to it, then you end up in sort of a weird problem of coming up with buffs and then going, well, how do I actually implement that? And you have to rewrite everything from scratch. Don't do that. Try to think of like other things that could be affecting all these various different stats going on here. Like in here, you could also have like how damage is going to be calculated, for example. So it does all this, then it does the applied damage. And then you think about, okay, well, then we're going to look at the enemy's resistance and defense and like, you know, whatever that system is. A good technique to do this is to look at things like D&D and other tabletop RPGs, because these are very rule focused and have to have a set operation list. So look at how they do it. It could give you some inspiration as well. Next question. Ripper Junkie, hey Ryan, do you think it's possible to create a GTA 3 inspired game as a solo developer? GTA 3 being a small scope game. That is not a small scope game. That is a very large game. Any RPG in any kind of and GTA is an RPG. Any RPG game, especially open world, are very difficult to put together. You have to be very confident in knowing what you're doing and how you're approaching it. A small scope game, if you're going like for a first time making a game, my advice for most people nowadays is to take a mini game from Mario Party, make that, okay, make one mini game, okay, make that work, and then add on to it and think how you can twist it and manipulate it in an interesting way. Be it adding online multiplayer if you want, for example. But that's small scope. Focus on that as your first sort of games you should be making. Very dumb games, but they're not designed to make money. They're designed to make you better. That's what the first few games that you make should be all about, is making you a better developer. You're going to learn a lot by doing that. If you go too big and make a GTA game, or any sort of open world RPG or action adventure game, you're going to run into lots of problems, really thick and fast. And it's one of those things that you don't know what you don't know. So if you aren't aware of the hurdles and pitfalls that you're going to fall into, be it technical, design, or other things, you may run in. You're going to be stuck in limbo forever on those sort of things. So, yes, make little mini game type things. They're really, and some of them are pretty interesting and fun to do. Like, there's one I quite like doing for people, and that is like there's you're a character and you've got to grab item like a bomb and put it in the right color section, otherwise it blows up. And so you have to fuse it, to put it in the right color section, and more bombs coming quicker and faster and faster and faster. And you can then think about how you can spin on that and add things to it if you wanted to. But do those sort of things first when you're getting started, and then you get a bit more confident, and then you can see where you go after that. Like for example, I personally would not make a GTA type size game, GTA 3 type game, okay? Because I'm a pretty well adverse in terms of like knowing what to expect and what's going to come down the road when I start making it. Like you may be able to make the system, but then you got to put all the mechanics together, and it makes it very, very difficult. Yeah. Hunt 120, just started a course on Coursera. Is there any quirks I should know before starting up? Quirks in terms of the course, or quirks in terms of Unreal Engine? In terms of the course that you're going to get on there, everything. It's true for all courses in Unreal Engine specific stuff, or even all game engine stuff. It doesn't really matter about Unreal, Unity, or whatever. This industry is very fast moving, and the technology is forever changing. And so some stuff may be not out of date, but look different, feel different. But in general terms of learning things, you're never going to stop learning. So don't treat any course you pick up, and this is true for any course, not just Coursera courses, but any course you pick up. Don't treat it as if like this is the thing that's going to make me know everything. It's not. There's no such thing. Okay, you're going to be forever learning this stuff. It's not like there's not a finite end point to it. It's always a starting point, okay, and that's the main thing. Courses are there to give you a starting point, and you'll see in at least the part I done with the blueprinting side, it's focused on giving you that starting point and then setting up challenges for you to launch off and try and do more interesting stuff on your own energy. Active ragdoll. Oh yeah, active ragdoll is pretty simple to do. So on your character, the thing you want to add to it is physical. If you spell it correctly, physical animation. This one. And then you tell it what parts are going to be floppy, basically. So if I just go and begin play and say to this thing, I can't remember what it's called now. Again, top tip, if you don't know what it's called, the functions, just look for the physical animation or the name of the thing, and you'll see the section. There you go. So in here, you want to go apply animation settings below, typically. So you pick that, and the body name is going to be the bone that you want to trigger. Okay. So let's say I want to do the arm, clavicle. Okay, so clavicle L, for example. By default, what? Date pin is invalid. Oh, yeah, go make the settings. Yeah, I'll leave them alone. There we go. Why aren't you doing it? I might need to delay it. I've got to begin play. Maybe I should delay it a bit. It might not have instantiated yet. No, what are you doing? Simulation. Yep. Did I spell it right? Make sure upper arm. If not, there's something else you may have to do. It should do it automatically, and that is set what mesh it's going to be doing it on. So in here, you'll see if I type in again physical animation, you'll see in here there's set skeletal mesh component. By default, it should pick the one. If there's only one in there, it'll pick that one, but maybe it hasn't. So we'll just manually set it. Body name. Try that now. What the hell? I should do it. Oh, why? That should be it. Upper arm L. I'm pretty certain that's the. Let me look at the physics component. Hang on. That's the thing you want to be using. Is this physical animation? It's basically what you're talking about. And you can also alpha it, so it does it half in, half not. So let's go to physics asset here. Yeah, clavicle. Upper arm. Yeah, should be flopping about. I've clearly forgotten something. I don't know what, though. But that is what it is. Let me give it a longer delay. If you don't know why a delay may work in this case, is because when an actor is spawned in, the components aren't all there immediately. They come in as well, spawning in. And so, like, this physical animation may come in before the meshes come in. So, therefore, it can't apply a physical animation to something that doesn't exist yet. So, we delay it to say, like, hey, don't do it just yet. Wait for everything to happen and then do it. So, it might be that's the case. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why that's not doing it. What have I missed out? Hang on. Yeah, set up the old documentation. Clearly forgotten something. Physical animation component. Oh. Yeah, that would make sense. Make sure your mesh. Collision presets, yeah, not query only. Custom. We'll do collision enabled. Right, let's see. No. That's stressing me out. Why is it not doing? Collision enabled. Yeah. That should be it. Let me try one of the other appliers. Because you've got animation settings below, and profile below. We'll try it with profile, maybe. So it won't be that one. We'll just do upper arm L compile. I don't know. I don't know. I missed anything. I mean, this is the first time I've done it in 5.7, so maybe it's a 5.7 issue. I ain't got a clue. That's the extent of it. It should be just that. And what it does, it just flops around and things. Yeah, and that's it really. I don't get why that wouldn't work though. Don't know. Set the mesh to a physics actor. It shouldn't matter because that's mostly handling with collision types. So that's just a preset that changes all this stuff. It shouldn't make a difference. Yeah. I don't know. Physical animation. This is what I normally have done in the past, just use this. I mostly do it with like a spine. Hell, I'm doing this with Mimic even. There's a part in Mimic that does this. You know. Yeah, it would be like flopping around and things. I don't know, try it in 5.6 or something, but I mean, that's it. That's all there is to it. But that's the node you're looking at. Have a look at it. Blaine, do you know that when you ragdoll your mesh, it can and will separate its location from the collision sphere? Yes, it will. And that's true for all physics assets. So any physics asset that you enable physics on, it will basically detach itself from the rest of the object. This is why when you're making a physics-based object, it's usually a good idea. Okay, I'll show you the problem with this. Okay, I'll show you the problem and the solution. So let's say we're making an actor, and this is going to be a physics-based actor. So you'd go in here, tick simulate physics, done. Yeah, right? But the problem with this is, though, if you're kind of reference its position, it doesn't really work. So, for example, here, I'm going to do a print string of get actor location, plug that into the in string, and set that to 0 there. If I plug this in here. Okay, so notice, keep an eye on the tick that's going on in the top left there. You'll notice that when I move the box, that number isn't changing. And this is a problem you'll find whenever you're using physics actors, and because they're detaching from it. Technically, that is just a component I'm pushing around, and that's what you're doing. You're applying physics to components, not actors. The main root of the actor that we're referring to, get actor location, is over here still. Yeah, that hasn't moved. So you've got two things you can do to solve that. One is, rather than using get actor location, using get that components world location, or alternatively, and you often see this the case, you just make the bit that's physics related the root, because then it obviously will go with it because it is the root. So you'll see now the number change. So yeah, be aware of that whenever you do physics, and this is especially true with ragdoll. It becomes extra problematic when you want to ragdoll your character and get them to stand back up. Because what that means is that, okay, it's detached. So before you detach it, you have to move the character to, like, capsule the character to the location of the mesh, and then tell it to stand up. Yeah, it makes it a right pain. So do bear that in mind when you're doing all sort of physics stuff. But yeah, it's the component that gets physics, not the actor. Are courses still worth making? Is it still beneficial for an instructor now that Coursera has acquired Udemy, or has there been a significant drop since AI? I don't know for certain. Courses, if done right, can have great, can be a great resource. What you'll find is probably better is a mentor-like course. So a course where you get a live tutor with you, and that's thing we're going to be doing with our courses that we have on the thing. We're going to offer live versions of them. There could be like a non-live version, and there'll be a live version where you'll get a class and you come into the class with people. And they'll probably be far more beneficial because you can get live feedback and all that stuff in there. AI is all well and good and all, but it can only get you again 70% of the way there. It won't get you the whole way. So it's not going to solve every problem you have. You do need to sort of be able to think for yourself a little bit and make decisions. Another problem you'll have with AI is it's not very good at subjective stuff. So if you ask for feedback from the AI will always big you up. Yeah, it's always to say you're doing great. Yeah. It may go like for example, the GTA question. AI, I can imagine the response for AI would be, making a GTA game would be a great idea. However, for your first game, probably wouldn't be the best. You should try and aim for something smaller. But it won't probably dive too much into more of that using experience to exemplify it, maybe. Because it doesn't have the experience to exemplify it. Yeah. What is the best way to learn C++? Can you give some channels for that? First of all, learn C++ raw, like just C++, not Unreal Engine or game dev, just C++. Learn that first. Then you should be well versed enough to be able to pick up Unreal Engine and just make something very, very simple. There aren't many courses online. It's something I keep meaning to make more stuff on in Unreal related, make C++ actors and things like that in here. So showcasing how you make a blueprint based class as an actor, as a C++ actor, and then building blueprints for them. But the main thing I see people doing is they jump into Unreal as their first C++ project. Don't do that. Yeah, learn C++ generally, especially if you've not done any programming before in your life. If you've done some like other object-oriented programming, it's not too bad. But ideally, yeah, just pick up C++ on your own. And there's tons of free resources out there. You just Google it, you'll see there's tons to learn that stuff. Nav mesh proxy to work, but it's not work. Can't seem to get there. Any tips? In what way is it not working for you, CM? Let me put a nav mesh in first of all. Ooh, there you go. What are the issues you're facing, my friend? Is it like not connecting? Like, is it not sensing it? In particular, there we go. Nav mesh, and nav mesh proxy. I've forgotten where they are. Not in here, are they? Go to place actors panel. Proxy. There you go. Nav. Oh wait, you talking something different? There's. I forgot they were called nav links, not nav mesh proxies. Okay, yeah, okay. You are talking about this. Okay. You have two separate nav meshes and place proxy, but an NPC is not using it. Yeah. Should do. Alright, case and let's see if we can make a quick example of this working, and we'll see if we can find the issue. So I'm gonna make two nav meshes. We'll put one over here and another one over here. I'm gonna bridge the gap with this proxy. So I'm gonna go down here, move that one over there, move that down there. Bring that one back up. The main thing, obviously, is making sure that these are actually inside the nav mesh. If they're not inside the nav mesh, not going to work. So do make sure that is the case. I need to make a basic AI. I don't know. Okay, hold on. Let me just drag this guy out here. And I'm going to tell him just to follow me. AI move 2. Moving. Pawn itself. Target actor is get player character. And on success, just called moving again. So get on a loop. Okay. I'll make it a bit slower as well. Otherwise, may cause some issues. Right, let's chuck them in there. And hit play. Yeah. Not an issue. If you have any ideas, what I could be doing differently. Okay, no, sorry. I mean, I could try and think what else could be the issue. I mean, the only thing I could think of is that you haven't put the point inside of the mesh. Like, if that's not inside of it, it won't see it and won't respond to it. That's it, really. Yeah, let me have a look. If there any AI for creating 3D meshes, mainly characters in that's free. I mean, free is going to be a very hard tool ask because it's quite expensive to run AI stuff. Character-wise, not necessarily. You can get ones to make like T-posed characters, but then you have to rig them in, like maybe you can rig them in like Mixamo, for example, and do other steps to get them in here, or rig them in Unreal if you want you to. You know, it definitely is out there. Whether they're good or not, yeah, not yeah, they're not 100% there. The problem you'll find with most mesh generators is that it has no concept of what the thing is when it's doing it. So it takes an image normally and it'll turn into a 3D image. But let's say, for example, if it's a car, it does not necessarily know that wheels are wheels and therefore won't make them separate models that need to rotate and spin. So it becomes a problem. You have to do it yourself. Similarly for characters. So characters have the same issue with clothing, for example. It doesn't know clothing is separate from skin. So it just treats it as one base mesh, which can lead to weirdness. And it means you have to go in and modify it yourself and it becomes a bit more problematic. Same with hair, you know. It is a bit of a meh at the moment. It's not the greatest. It's getting better. But they're mostly better for static meshes, like static props and things. The Qbert. Hello, everyone. You have a couple of cinematic combat camera tutorials. I'd like to know how I can make the same, but without having the player place within the level. God of War cam style. Huh? God of War, the player is in the level, though. You what? Like, you're always there. Could you clarify a bit more for me? Because Kratos is always there, so I'm not entirely certain what you're referring to there. Will you continue the Mario Party game? Probably not. We're more likely to do a general board game. Show how to do basic board game stuff. There are different elements I want to try and showcase in smaller videos. So we've done dice recently. We'll be doing cards soon and how you do a card like hand mechanic thing. So there is that, but I mean, never say never. But it's probably gonna be something a bit more smaller, and more focused on like a very basic board game type thing. Yeah. Let me scroll up and see if we've got any other questions. Any other questions? We're sticking around for a little bit longer. Ches V, I think Tim Sweeney said that Verse will be in fact be coming to UE6. I mean, yeah, it probably will do, but I still don't see the point of Verse. um, my experience with Verse, and talking to other programmers, is that Verse is great if you're not a programmer already. If you're a programmer already, it kind of feels like, what's the point? Like everything I could do in Verse, I could do in Blueprint, and definitely could do in C++. So it's trying to. I don't know where it fits in. What is it? What gap is it filling? That's the part I'm struggling to comprehend. Because really it's weaker than blueprinting. Um, and obviously nowhere near as in depth as C++. So I don't know where it fits in the like marketing wise. I don't know what audience need this as a thing. So I don't know. It may well be, but I again don't know why and don't know how it fit, what market it's fitting. Um, yeah, that's my 2 cents about it. Anyway, it might change obviously. But yeah. Let me scroll around, see if we've got any questions. I'd like to see something like Hands of Fate where the cards are used to plot out the adventure that then you play through. Oh, okay. I wish Epic would implement C# as an optional scripting language. Other blueprints are great, but it's terrible to work as a team. You can't properly merge. I mean, yeah. Yes and no. You can't merge in the same way that you're used to merging, but chances are the reason why you can't merge is that people are making blueprints way too complex. Break things down to smaller pieces. Don't make loads and loads of things. Like for example, a good a showcase of this is like what they do here for the aiming and movement stuff in the new templates. Like albeit it's quite a simple thing, and you may think, well, why don't you put this in just here? Well, the more you break it up, the easier it is to merge it and manage it as a team. So do that. Yeah, it also, yeah, different merge stuff works better. Like Perforce works a lot better for merging things than like Diversion or Git or anything like that. Yeah. Chesv seems like Verse is more geared for devs that are more artistic and don't have a strong programming background. But you see, that's what my argument would be for blueprinting. So I don't know, like, I don't know what it's solving. I don't know the problem it solves. That's the problem. And they haven't really been forthcoming with it. Like in all the marketing speak for it. Usually when you're marketing a product or someone, they always say like the best way to market something is to highlight someone's need for it. A great example of this is in Wolf Street. Is like sell me this pen type thing. It's like you're not trying to sell the pen, you're trying to sell the need for it. And whenever you introduce new tools like Verse, for example, you want to say to people like, this is why you want to be using this. Like this is the solution to this problem. That's why blueprints took off quite well. You know, it solved the problem, and they haven't really verbalized what Verse is actually plugging in, and that I want to know more about. Like, what was that internal sort of memo discussion of like how are you pitching this? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it does yet. I don't know the point of it. It boggles my mind. Like to me, the reason for Verse's existence was because in UEFN, blueprinting isn't really part of it, and the reason why is because blueprinting is, if anything, is too accessible. Like you can do too much with it, and UEFN has to be proper locked down. So Verse was a way of them making a third tier where they can lock it down. So okay, that is a use case there, but I don't understand where the use case comes in on here. Like I don't know. Ripper Junkie, let me rephrase my GTA 3 question. I'm an experienced game developer. I've been working in the industry for 6 years. For some experience, would you say it's possible to handle GTA 3? it comes back to the question of it depends on like what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, and specifically what your weaknesses are. Um, Design around your weaknesses, not necessarily just your strengths. So think about what is going to be limiting you in that regard. So, for example, the thing that would hold me back from doing a GTA 3 thing is the art side. Could basically making a whole city and fill it with content. Like you can, these systems aren't too hard to make in an individual aspect, but then when you try and build them to scale, it becomes a little bit more trickier and a lot more time consuming and a lot more harder to do. Yeah, and the thing that people forget as well is that making the game itself is only half the battle. The other half is designing the game and making it fun. Yeah. Like you can make systems, that's great. That's quite relatively quick. But the biggest problem you're going to have with that is, again, how you got to make this thing fun, make people want to play it. And I often see that as a problem when people have one-to-ones with me, is that they've designed something, or like they've made something, but they haven't really done anything with it. Like I keep telling them, like, make a level, make something, make a scenario, make something up that we can test case this out, and people often struggle with that. And that could also take up a lot of time. Case in point, for example, this new game I'm working on, there's a mechanic where the player has to they progress by signing contracts with someone. Okay, and on a technical level, it's a click of a button and they sign the contract. Done. But it's not very fulfilling for the player. It's not really rewarding for the player. It's not very aesthetically pleasing for them. So I had to design a whole complex looking UI thing and art side of things to make this look really fancy and really satisfying for the player. And that took a lot longer than the actual mechanic itself. Yeah. So there's the whole element of that goes into it. Another example of this is Mimic. So in my game Mimic, all functional, all working, but you spend a lot of time just like, okay, well, I need to cultivate player behavior in a very specific way. And in Mimic, one of the behaviors we needed to cultivate was slowing the player down. Like we need to be able to slow them down, because in a multiplayer game, people tend to run like maniacs and do running around things. And that's not scary. So we have to think of ways to make more of a hindrance for them and slow them down a bit. And you try and do that without pissing them off. It makes it very difficult. So you have to, like, think about things like that. So yeah. Yeah, so like, yeah, Ripper Junkies. So case in point in that example of GTA 3 would be like cutscenes, for example. Like GTA 3 or on the systems level is okay, you can make that, but then the payoff isn't that exciting. The exciting part comes from like storytelling and the animation and the cutscenes and all this other stuff. Which is very, very large. Yeah, try to do something much. If you want to do something like GTA, but not as grand in scope. Shrink it down. Take all the systems you have, like missions and like weapons, maybe, I don't know, but shrink it down. Bring it into a much smaller, confined area, a really predetermined scope that you can actually try and manage a lot better. That doesn't involve building a whole city and building an elaborate story or building anything that has to last like 50 hours. Try to make a game that will last maybe 5 hours. Yeah. Yeah. Think of it in that term. So you're trying to make a game that's in 5 hours. And if you made a whole city meant to last 5 hours, it's going to feel very empty. So don't do that. Like, if it was me, I'd pick something like because I'm like a small village. I'm in England, so we have little villages and things like that. I'd pick a small village, and work with that and think, okay, well, rather than all these different shops, I've got one shop, and rather than all these different bars, I've got one bar, and rather than 50 characters, I've got 3. it shrinks it way down, and you make a GTA Sanford sort of game. Make Hot Fuzz the video game, basically. So shrink it down, make it much smaller, and aim for like a 5-hour game rather than a 50-hour game. Yeah. Gabriel, yes, it is saved, and you can watch it back afterwards. Turtle tanks, vehicle controller. Yeah, I want to do more vehicle stuff. For sure, it's on the cards. Can we revisit the condemned question? Yeah. Anyway, let me scroll up and have a look what's happened to it. The weapons are found on the ground and you pick them up. Yep. What, you want to know how to do that? Let us know what you want. Yeah. Yeah, the nav mesh is there because someone asked a question about nav links not working, and who was it? Let me chase it up actually. Who was asking that question? I can't remember who it was. Oh, CMV. They haven't responded, so I assume they're okay. I don't know. So would you still attach values to the player or BP weapon you pick up? All that reach and weapons, that would be on the weapon. Yeah, all that would be on the weapon. And if I have anything modifying it, that would be on the player. Yeah, okay, yeah. Sorry, I've got a belt on and it's digging right into my gut. Hang on, let me just undo the belt. It's not that kind of stream. Oh, that's better. Phyllis, what sense would you change about a character that can scale into terrain up to 300 meters? How? Instead of putting nav links everywhere. There's actually a system built in now in latest versions where you can generate nav links for platforms automatically. But scaling 300 feet. I've lost it now. Where'd it go? Well, yeah, there you go. So you make a character that can scout any terrain up to say 300 meters. How? If they're scaling terrain, if it's a player character, if you're going like vertical on a terrain, you're changing the mode to flying and you're changing the control system. I've done several videos on climbing systems and ladders, all the same sort of gizmos basically. You basically like when they hit a surface, make them change it to flying, make them go up and down. The thing you're doing with the but it's AI driven. Oh, you want AI character to do that? Oh, right. A little bit trickier. So the problem you have with that is that nav meshes in Unreal by default don't generate on the vertical. They only generate on a flat surface. They can't do grid based navigation, and that's a problem you'll find. So what you do is try to find an example of this. How can I do this? Let me take this out here. like that. Ooh. And just clean this up a little bit and move that away. So if a character has to climb something, we won't be able to do all of it today because there's too much. But give you a general starting point. You'd have something like this, for example, right? And let me just make the nav mesh a bit taller. There you go. They need to be able to get up there. Now, the first problem is they need to know, have a nav link basically linking the two together, because they need to see that there's a way to connect to them. At the moment, they don't see that. So what you have to do is put a nav link in. Okay. If you are doing like really wide surfaces, then you basically want to make them move without using a nav mesh, which is not an easy thing to do because it means you can't rely on any sort of AI navigation methods. You have to make your own. And then when they bump into a wall, they enter climbing mode, which changes their mode to flying, which then makes them go up and follow you. So, case in point. Yeah, I'm going to try and do it without a nav link. Okay, so this character, this one that's chasing me, because we're not going to use a nav mesh, it can't rely on this. Okay, so you have to make your own sort of thing. And so in this case, we wanted to do add movement input. The wild direction, we'll just make it chase the player character for simplicity. Get player character, get direction, get direction from there to there, to the player character's active location, like that. So from their location to the player's location, you're going to add movement input to it. So always just moving. Yeah, it's just always moving. Okay. And what they'll do is you'll see them not do that. Why not doing it? Moving. Moving. That should move. Oh, yeah, sorry, it doesn't need to be on a tick. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so they're moving towards me, right? But now they've got to detect when they're hitting the wall. So your AI character should have like a way of detecting that by either using hit detection or using a line trace, either or. So let's do a hit detection. Actually, no. Let's do a wall detection because it's a little bit more, because you can hit the floor, for example. We don't want to go into climbing the floor. So you'd have a line trace going out all the time from the start here. And that'd be from their actor location, start point, end point. We're going to add in their forward vector, multiplied by a short distance. So we'd do like 50, for example, maybe. I'll do 60. So I think their capsule's 30. Yeah, 35. So they'll go into there. That'll do a trace, and I'll debug that for one frame. Then we break open their hit result, and we detect whether or not they're hitting a wall or floor or whatever. if they hit something in a blocking hit, we're going to try and tell them to climb it. So like you'd have a thing in here, say start climbing. Okay, and the main thing that's going to happen with climbing and how it works is you set the flying mode, set movement mode to flying, like that. And yeah, let's go do that. And on stop climbing, this is a very simplistic method, by the way. Sorry. Obviously, you can expand on it on your own if you can. Back to walking. Okay. So yeah, on this, if this is a blocking hit, for example, we want to say if we're blocking hit and we're not flying. Not Boolean. What we're going to do is take to start climbing. If it's not a hit, actually I should do that as a separate branch. One sec. No. If it's not flying, goes the. Oh no, sorry, we've got not flying already. Yeah. So if it's not a hit and we are flying, then we take to stop climbing. Okay. Obviously, you have to play an animation of them actually climbing up onto the thing. But what we should see. There you go. Oh, there you go. But you can see he stopped climbing, but he's now climbing. He's stopping climbing, up climbing. You know, they're doing things like that. So you have to do some other calculations to make them actually climb up and mantle up or something. But yeah, that's generally how it works. And obviously, you just change their flying settings. So when you are doing climbing, you want to make flying have a high break speed. So max fly speed will turn it down to like 100, and then braking deceleration flying, we're going to knock that way up. So let's do 1,000. So they would be less floaty. But here they go. They're going to climb it now. And yeah, you obviously get stuck there. So it should give you an idea of where to go after that. Like you do other traces. Like usually when you're doing your own navigation system, you have lots of traces going on because you need to know a lot about the surrounding positions for the character. I've done it once before, like with I did it with a shark, and I've done it with a dragon as well, flying around. So shark swimming, dragon flying, and they had to navigate around the environment. And that's all done by just using different traces of different types to do that, really. I also like to watch the Souls-like series for me. Maybe. We'll see. I had a cast in many tasks. Casting's fine so long as the thing that you're casting to is already loaded in memory. That's the cost. The big cost of casting is that if you cast something that isn't necessarily always the case, then it's going to load that into memory when it doesn't need to be. But if it's something that's always there, like the game mode, for example, not a problem. Yeah, it's going to be always there. Totally fine. So yeah, it depends entirely on what you're trying to cast to. So it should be fine. So long as the thing you're casting to is already loaded up in memory. And it's always going to be there. Let me scroll up and see what else we've got going on here. How do I fix textures flickering from Beanbag 59? Do you mean Z fighting? So Z fighting is when you have two objects occupying the same space. So let's say I put this on here and I change the material for it to be that. You get flickering. Okay, this is called Z fighting, and it's because that polygon, that pixel, is occupying the same space as another pixel, so it doesn't know what one to render, so it flickers. The way you solve that is by taking any sort of movement, like maybe in a Z in this case, and putting like 0.1. That'll do. That'll solve that if you want to stop that. Obviously, not ideal because you actually are moving it, and it is slightly ever above it, but you're not going to notice it. Yeah, making a small change like that will be just fine. But yeah, if you're seeing flickering, that's usually the problem. Very cool, thanks. So even if the task isn't being called, the casted blueprint will be in memory. Correct. Yeah. If something is casting, it's going to be loaded in along with everything else. Because it needs to know what it has in order to access it. So, for example, if I go into character here, and I do... if I do get player character, cast to the child one, like that, for example, and plug that in, there, whatever. The problem that will now have is that if I go into here and size map and change that to memory size, you can see it's going to do game third person character. Oh, maybe I should pick one that's not a child of it. Hang on, that doesn't help. I need something that isn't. Let's do a new blueprint. Let's do that one. Hang on. Cast to new blue. Oh wait, I can't. Hang on. Cast to new blueprint. There you go. That'll do. It's not gonna like it, but whatever. It should. Well, I'm not seeing it. It'd be very small. That's the problem. Third person character. Memory size. Yep. Why am I not seeing it? It should be there. Like it will load it up with it, but that's the thing to see. But maybe I need to play it at least once, or do something with it rather than doing nothing with it. Yeah, maybe I have to do something with it. You can see, like, if you go to any sort of task, you can see, like, how much it's going to cost memory-wise. Just by looking at the size map, you can see what other actors it's going to load up. So, the third-person game mode here loads up the third-person character, because it's referencing it. And it loads up this one, which is the controller, I guess. Yeah, the controller. Yeah. And IMC default, that's the mapping system. So, you can kind of see all the things that get loaded up with this game mode. Yeah. That's the memory size. Yeah. Yeah. Have a look around. I found the end play node. What's that used for? It kind of seems obvious, but I've never seen anyone actually use it. Yeah, I've used it a few times. So, yeah, end play is useful for a couple of things. So, first of all, you've got two types of events. You've got end play event, and you've got people get mixed up with these two. Event destroyed, event end play. The difference being is that destroyed means that this thing was destroyed with a destroy active node. Okay, so this node triggers this, but this also triggers this, but this is also triggered by other things. Okay, so you can see the end play reason here is an enum, and you can see you can decide what happens based upon whether it's destroyed, whether it's just transitioning between levels, whether we just stopped playing in the editor, or whether it's removed from the world completely, yeah, or quit the game, you know. So you can do different things based upon that. But yes, it's exactly the same. I've seen people use this interchangeably, which is technically true. It will work for that. It's just that destroyed is handled in one node like this too. If you move camera away, Z-fighting again, yeah, it will Z-fight eventually because it's just rounding down and rounding up. Try to avoid Z-fighting it all the time. Try to not overlap models exactly in the same space. Although mine looks like it's doing okay. Yeah, doing okay. some optimization methods will round down and round up the location of stuff, but yeah. Ideally, yeah, try not to have them sort of covering, or cover it up with another asset. So you make another one, another asset or detailing thing that sort of like hides it. You know, whatever. In your opinion, should a player see their legs in the first-person game, or just their body, or just their arms? I don't think it really matters too much. I think the thing it depends on is like what you're trying to achieve design-wise. Do you want the player to feel like they are embodying the character completely, and see the impact of the character? Because there's stuff you can do with the body and legs. Is that you can animate with that and do some interesting things with it. But it obviously opens up doors for problems down the line. I don't think it really matters too much personally. One second. Thanks for your videos. It's always been very helpful. Do you think generating environments with Niagara is fine? I have lots of animated stuff, so PCG might be heavy to update. You're generating environments with Niagara. The hell are you generating? I mean, yes, but there are limitations with that. Obviously, you can't do collision events as easily with it. You can't cut. You don't have much control over the placement of specific things as much as that. It's not so. There are limitations, but they're pretty obvious. Oh, very obvious limitations. Yeah. Yeah. So if it looks fine to you, it ticks all your boxes. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. But I don't see why you would. But to each their own. Cool Breeze, can you explain when to use a soft reference instead of a hard reference? I mean, ideally, you should use soft references all the time, but you know, it's lazy. So to explain the difference between the two, so the main thing is with a hard reference is the hard referencing is referencing. Okay, so the little blue pins you see in here. So let me just add like one in here, like an actor ref. Okay. And this is going to be an actor reference like this. Okay, so the thing to remember is with these references, think of these as like memory addresses. Okay, so these are an address. Okay, and an object reference is referencing a specific address in memory. Okay, it's called a pointer. We're pointing to a particular address in memory. The problem with that is that it is not guaranteed that that memory address is going to be the same, exactly the same every single time. This is most notably when you are loading or between levels or save game files, or you're referencing something that doesn't exist yet. Because let's say it's coming in. Yeah, but you don't know when it is going to come in, and you don't know where it's going to be allocated. Once you know where it's allocated, fine, you can store it as a hard reference. But until then, you don't, okay? And at that point, soft object references are the preferred course, because what a soft object reference is doing is it is storing not necessarily the address, a pointer of the object, but storing a sort of like the ID of the object and looking out for when in where it gets allocated. Once it becomes loaded memory, you can resolve it. It's what it's called, resolving. So if, like, for example, if we made that soft object reference, you can resolve the soft reference to get into a hard reference here. So when should you use it? If you can't guarantee the spawning of an object in the correct place at the correct time in everything, you want to use a soft object reference. It's a little bit safer. You're not like, for example, if I'm loading in something, if I'm loading a game in, and I've got to load in all the objects I've placed in the world. I want to store those references as soft references because they may not be loaded in time to be used by other things. So basically, it's saying like when these become available, this is where they're going to go, and it sort of like just reserves their spot basically. So that's what they do, and from that, when you should be using, like, ideally, you're using sort of object references all the time. There's no harm in using all the time. It's just a little bit more extra. Well, I don't know if there's actually harm in using it all the time. Let me have a look. I don't think there is a harm in using it the whole time. Disadvantage. There's a thing in it's not a Unreal thing. It's a just C++ thing. Using references. Yeah, a good example of when you want to use this is asynchronous stuff. But I don't know what the actual drawbacks of using it is. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe a tech engineer will understand why or when you shouldn't use it. I mean, obviously, it's not a eventually to use it, you have to resolve it. You can't use it as is. Especially essentially like a reserved spot. Mm, yeah. I mean, obviously not everything. You have to resolve them with this eventually for running into functions and things like that. But yeah, I don't think there's a major downside to using them. It's just, yeah. I'll keep looking into it. But yes, if you want to do your own research, you can do. As I say, the C++ thing. It's just how C++ runs, and you'll see. I just looked online quickly that people having the same argument, like, why don't I use all these all the time? And yeah. Yeah, it's knowing when to resolve it. Maybe it's more important. Yeah. How can you make for example, the enemy HP bar always stay the same size? Make it screen position, not world position. Sad Yukius. There's a kind of controversy about when to use nanite. Some say it hinders performance big time. What is your take on the topic? Yes and yes. It does have a performance hit. It does have some really nice benefits. So like for large landscape areas with lots of large meshes, it's really great for that stuff. Because LODing a large mesh is really, really difficult. If you don't understand what Nanite's actually doing, so, I mean, I haven't got an example with me, but use your imagination. Imagine this is like a big rock, for example. In old style traditional LOD systems, when you got this a certain size on the screen, it would swap the whole mesh out for a lower level mesh. The problem you have with that, though, is that if I'm like here, okay, and technically this thing is large on my screen, okay, so therefore it's going to load up the high res version of this whole entire model. But the thing is that the thing in the distance isn't the large bit on the screen. The bit in the closest it doesn't need to be. So I need it to basically keep it, the bit that's closest to me, high res, and the bit that's further away, low res. But with a traditional LOD system, you can't do that. You can't have half and half. In Nanite, you can. And Nanite allows you to do that. We also have it with, traditionally had it with texturing. Texturing does it with anisotropic filtering. I think it's anisotropic. I think that's that one. Where it blends to a low res texture with a high res texture based upon distance and size on the screen rather. So that's what Nanite is doing. So Nanite works really well for very, very large landscapey like objects that have lots of detail. So things that are very muddy, rocky, textury, those sort of things. It works really, really well with. What it doesn't necessarily work too well with is smaller objects, things that have got less detail. Yes, you can enable it for those things, but you may not want to. Now, the downside to Nanite is that it even though it does this very, very well, there's a trade-off point where the Nanite mesh is actually physically more space on a disk. So if you were to make everything Nanite, your game would get very large very quickly. So you try not to do that. The other downside you have with it as well is that you have to use virtual mapping a lot of the time, so virtual shadow maps. What virtual means is basically it's streaming it in. Okay, it's not loaded in and displayed. It's streaming it in based upon what's happening in the time. And because Nanite is doing that blend, it has to stream in virtually what it's going to want to do with the shadow maps. Same with light maps, but shadow maps definitely. And so you won't have those. You have to account for those sort of things as well. So Nanite, yes, it's very, very good in certain circumstances. People are using them in circumstances that doesn't matter and it shouldn't be used for. It should always be an option that you want to be able to turn off and on. Like, for example, in Mimic, we're not using it at all. We don't have a use case for it, so it's off, basically. It is mostly useful for ArcViz and TV, doing film and visual effects stuff with beefy computer stuff. Games, you typically want games to run on as low end spec as possible, so you tend to avoid using Nanite for those sort of reasons. So yeah, if you need your thing to run on as many machines as possible, try to always design and create things on the lowest common denominator. Film and TV don't have that problem because they just hit render and it comes out of their thing. They have to design it for just one machine. If it works at one machine, great. We have to design it for millions of different configs, so it makes it very, very difficult. So for games, I'd recommend maybe turning it off for the most part. Again, not always the case. There are use cases, but yeah, there's not a big issue. Yeah, Josh Works has said it. Yeah, soft is for asynchronous sort of loading. So you want something hanging around in memory, but you don't have to actually use it just yet. What about trees for big forest? You could do. I don't know how well the Nanite. I haven't profiled it yet. How well Nanite trees and foliage work. It's relatively new. I haven't had a chance yet. Um, Theoretically, yeah. But yeah, it's always you have to be flexible always in this case because again, as a game developer, you're designing not just for your PC but for others as well. And most people will have lower end PCs, and the lower the common denominators you have, lower common denominator you have, the more copies you can sell theoretically because you have more of an audience. So you just got to think about that. I personally would just focus on using LODs and using billboards and other things and other little trickery things that we do. You know, as game developers over many years, we've developed all sorts of weird tricks and to sort of trick the player into thinking they're seeing more than they actually are. So try to rely on those. Makes it a bit easier. Yeah. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Yeah. If you, yeah, Nanite is really cool tech. Really impressive tech because it only has to show what it sees on the screen at any one time. It's great. And it does that blending in, and you can see that blending in happening when you turn on Nanite. But there's a trade-off point. Yeah. Did I see your question about story progression? No, I did not. Hold up. Let me have a look. Hi Ryan, can I ask the best way to track story progression? Also, should I be creating a new level for each part of my story? I'm creating an RPG game. A good tip for this is check out my video on gameplay tags. I've done a couple of videos, and one of them actually showcases a bit of a very short progressions example of how you can use tags to handle this. It's how I'm doing it in my current game that I'm working on. I'm using tags to keep track of what the players achieved and what they haven't achieved and where they got up to. So that's a great way of doing that because then you can make queries for certain circumstances. As for different levels for your RPG, yeah, totally could do. You can if you are using the same environment though, a good thing to do is keep an eye on using data layers. That way you can, or layers in general if you're not doing partitions, but in layers in general, you have the same map. You just hide and show what's relevant and what's not relevant. I've got a great example for games have been doing this for years. It's not a new tech. It's pretty basic. But if I go to a good website I use quite a lot to showcase level design to people is noclip.website. If you haven't checked out, do check out. It's good fun. But if I go to, say, Star Fox Adventures here, and if I go to Thorntail Hollow, this website allows you to explore game maps in your browser. You can see all the things. It's really cool. In this example, it's quite a good one to bring up because I show this to showcase this layering tech and what we do with it. And in these layers, they've got different layers for different parts of the game based upon what's happening in the story, what's going on, what events are happening, and all sorts of things. Yeah. If I go, there's a bit where it changes the. Oh yeah, there you go. This thing in the sky. These things sort of I think these bad guys spawn it. I can't remember now. We go back years. Sometimes these things spawned in, and like this one, the door's gone. You know, different layers appear for different things, and so they use a layer system to handle this, and we still do this. So rather than making the level again and again and again, we just make it once and just hide and show the layer. It makes it a lot easier, quicker to track and modify it, because if you make changes in the map, you can make changes elsewhere and it will be transferred across. Yeah, but do check out his website. It's really cool. So I get everyone to look at it. It's really neat tool to look at. Great way to really see how you should do levels in a professional context. You can see like they're not that complex really. They're, like, it's all smoke and mirrors. Even if, like, yes, it's an old game, but totally valid way of doing it. But yeah, check it out. It's quite cool. So I use it all the time. Yeah, you don't have to even stream them in. You can just turn off layers, turn them off and on. Data layers. How can you make your characters' models be mirrored by water? Turn on screen space reflections and have it reflective. Essentially. So if do I have starter content? I don't. Hang on. Add feature. Oh, what? Hang on. They've moved stuff. Ooh, hang on. This is a 5.7. What have they done? What have they done to my stuff? Content packs. Where are the content packs? Hello. It used to be a tab here for content packs. Okay, I can't show that. Well, yeah, you just make it reflective. Okay, I'll make a very quick water thing. Material. Do. Very crap water. Here we go. Specular. Specular up as 1. Oh, 1. Roughness will be 0. So that's nice and reflective. Put that on there. Okay. And if you want this to be reflecting the player character, you have to just make sure that your project is set to at least screen space reflections. I think by default it's Lumen. Yeah, so you can use Lumen, totally fine. But I prefer screen space because it's a little bit cheaper and it works just as well. What screen space does is it takes a look at what's happening in the screen and just reflects it. That's all it's doing, and you'll see a character reflective in the screen. Screen, water. There you go. Yeah. Essentially it. They moved content packs to the Fab tab. Oh, of course they did. Anyway. But yeah, look at the data layers. I've got a video on it. Check it out. Yeah. No problemo. I think we're going to have to call it there, though, guys. We've been going for a couple of hours now-ish. So, yeah, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone and their support in the channel, and support in everything that we're doing here. And so there are plans to sort of reinvent things a little bit in the new year. If you want to check out the new game we're working on, head over to Patreon. You can see a Patreon exclusive clip of what we're doing there. It's already changed quite a bit since then. But we're going to be looking at rejigging the sort of Discord roles, the Patreon rewards as well, and trying to get a bit more on top of it and a bit more organised in terms of video recordings, releasing, and all that stuff. It's been a bit of a crazy year in personal life, mental health wise as well. It's been absolute dog poo. Yeah, looking to do more streams. So there's a webinar over in the thing, and there is also, if you want private training sessions on in January now, there is a coupon code you can use, and I'm going to send it out on the social medias, but I'll look up what it is right now because I can't remember off the top of my head. I did make it, but I can't remember. One sec, I'll find it. Something to do with Christmas. I know, New Year. No, I can't remember now. Let me have a look. I can't remember my own damn coupon code. I've got. I'm planning to make a whole post about it for after Christmas, but it's valid now. And all through January, I think. So if you want one-to-ones, which I think a lot of you actually have in here in the chat, you can either become a Patreon member, a Diamond Patron, and you get that, or you can go to a website and get sessions there. But yes, the code is new26. That gets you 15% discount. So new26. Okay, new26. The back end is amazing, isn't it? But anyway, check out that. If you want to use that coupon code, that gets you 15% off all session bookings until the end of January. You use it many times as you like. Okay. Cool. Anyway, So yeah, once again, massive thank you for your support over 2025. Have a wonderful Christmas break and have a nice, safe, fun time with your family and friends. Enjoy the new year, and I'll see you in our live stream back in the new year. I think it'll be a podcast with Bill first time around. So if you haven't checked out our podcast, check out our podcast. Me and Bill hanging out. We're eventually going to get more people involved as well and do get guest appearances too. So keep an eye out for that in the 2026 as well. But yeah, take care, everyone, and thanks again. Bye.